Best of r/malicious compliance episode 27. I found out the result of this particular MC today, and wanted to share it with you all. Some background. I am a senior registrar, mid-level doctor in my country. Part of my job is the day-to-day training of medical students. At the end of each run there is a form called a Clinical Supervisor's Report, or CSR, that needs to be filled out for each medical student, usually by the consultant in charge, big boss doctor of a team, my boss. When a consultant is not available, a registrar can fill it out instead. This has a huge impact on your ability to pass each year of medical school. Enter shit student, SS. SS was, as the name suggests, a terrible student. He was in his 4th year, first of 3 clinical years. He never came to ward rounds, never went to teaching, was hardly ever at the hospital, and just generally didn't give a shit. He would always expect to be given everything he needed to pass. This would be somewhat forgivable if he also knew his shit, but he never did. Just all around lazy and entitled. SS came to me on his last run of the year a little concerned. You see, you can fail one of your 6 CSRs a year. Medical schools understand that sometimes you just get a douche for a consultant who just doesn't like you. We aren't teachers, and medicine is a profession not exactly known for fairness. If only one CSR is a fail with no other deficiencies, it's assumed the consultant was in the wrong and you can pass the year. Well, SS had already received a fail in 1 CSR this year. He hadn't spent any face time with our consultant, and was worried that she would fail him as well. He begged me to do his CSR for him. He specifically asked me to be as honest as possible on it. I'm a friendly guy, so he thought I would let things slide. It's technically within my authority to do it, and my consultant had already complained to me about never seeing the medical student, so I figured why not. I'll fill out the CSR as honestly as I can, just like you asked me to. Guess who is still a 4th year? Thank you. Next. I worked security for years and was good at my job and took it seriously. While working at the mall we had a dispatcher and a guard. The dispatcher would literally document everything. You checked an area and radio it, document it. They would also make all the required calls. Maintenance needed notified. Done. After 1 year of patrol I got moved to dispatch and loved it. It also came with a pay raise. I did that for another year and a half. I had a great co-worker and we got everything taken care of in a timely manner. Well, one day he fell asleep and was fired instantly. That's where things went downhill fast. A new person then gets hired. She's a friend of the director. A special friend if you catch my drift. She comes on and starts patrol. After day 1 she says she can't walk that much and I need to do her job. I tell her my title is dispatcher and it's her job to unlock the doors. She says well I guess they just won't get done. We get phone call after phone call of workers trying to get inside. I get up to go do it and a supervisor comes in and asks why the doors are still locked. I advise what happened and they said well you need to unlock the doors sooner so go. I'm dumbfounded. It's her job but I have to do it. Eventually it comes to the point where she can't even drive the car around the lot for some reason. She ends up sitting in dispatch because she can't do the job and if it doesn't get done it's on me for some reason. I was still getting the extra money but was doing regular patrol again. She then falls asleep while I am out riding. I approach a vehicle in the lot and they hop out wanting to fight me. All we are armed with is pepper spray. I radio her asking to call law enforcement. No answer. Attempting to radio her multiple times. No answer. This guy was 3 featuring from me and was angry. I hop in the car and call the police and he tears off. When I make it back to the dispatch room she's sleeping mouth wide open passed out. I record a video of it. I attempt to wake her again, on video, no answer. I had to bang on the desk to wake her. I'm done doing 2 jobs. At that point I was still entering all the data for dispatch and patrolling. I take the evidence to the director and say we need to do something about this and explain what happened. He said stop pestering her and do your job. I said fine, what job do you want me to do, dispatch or patrol? He said patrol because she can't. Okay. Malicious compliance. I start doing my job of patrol at 100%. She was sleeping at the desk and I had the police on speed dial, no longer relying on her. I take care of the whole mall to a point everyone's happy again. Everyone except our company who's asking, why are you not doing your rounds? They are not recorded in our data. Or why are these alarms not being entered or this incident? I tell them to check our fobs as we have scanner tags to prove my job is being done perfectly. I advise them that data entry is dispatcher's job, but the director doesn't mind her sleeping on duty. They were shocked. I continue my job using the radio occasionally, to which she never answers. Finally, mall management starts to get upset because she's calling for stupid reasons and not calling for good reasons. I was no longer telling her when to call, so she was doing it all wrong. They put her on patrol for a day and she wrecks the car. Instead of firing her, they put her back in dispatch, where she continues to do a horrible job and still not entering data like she's supposed to. I start looking for a new job and get a better paying one doing ambulance dispatch. I approach the director one final time and lay it on the line. I like working here. I love dispatch. I want a reason to stay, but if you don't fire her for sleeping like you did my original co-worker, then this is my 2 weeks notice. He takes my paper and says to turn in my uniform at the end of the 2 weeks. The ambulance job ended up being even better, so I am glad he did. I still had friends at the mall and I checked in from time to time. When I left, the doors were not getting unlocked, patrols not being done, and phones not being answered. The director was fired not too long after, and the new director found a new job before he was going to let her go. She still works there, possibly doing dispatch and sleeping like always. Someone was shot at the location a few months back too on her watch. TLDR. Co-worker couldn't do job and I stopped doing both jobs and everything went downhill. Thank you. Next. In my previous job, I was supposed to do online training for 30 minutes before each shift. I had been there 3 months and didn't get to do any of the online training at all because we were always too busy and I was needed to work on the floor, learning in the job. After 3 months, I got called into the manager's office and she was so cross at me and was shouting about my productivity being too low, which meant the staff weren't going to get their Christmas bonus because of me. I said what was I supposed to do after asking at the start of every shift about my online training, and I was never allowed to do it. It turns out I was using the scanning machine wrong. No surprises, I was never shown how to use it despite me asking. And once shown how to use it properly, my productivity went up 30% in one shift. Anyway, during another shift, my manager shouted at me again in front of other employees because I was working without a scanner. There was 10 scanners between 27 employees and everyone needed one. And I was told to not to do any work at all until I had a scanner. So I didn't. I worked a 8-hour shift without a scanner. I spent 8 hours doing nothing because that's what the manager told me to do. Got paid to sit listening to the radio. Thank you. Next. TL. Doctor at the end. I've had a few jobs and one was working for a UK energy company in one of their call centers. I was in the website team and dealt with emails as well as calls. Anything incorrect online or unable to log in on the website, but complaints handling was one of my duties. So I open an email from a customer who is having some issues and wants to have a call straight away. Gave a time to call him and a threat to go to Ofgem, the regulator, if he didn't get his call. Let's call him Bob. So I phone out to the number on the email. Me. Hello, is that Bob? I'm calling from energy company about. Bob, why are you sending me gas bills? Me. Sorry, can you confirm that I'm speaking to Bob? Bob, it doesn't matter who you're speaking to, there's no gas at this address. I want you to stop sending bills. Me. Are you saying Bob doesn't live there anymore? Bob, there is no gas here. 5 minutes later and I'm not getting anywhere trying to find out who actually lives there or if he's the landlord, so switch my approach. Me. Okay, so when was the gas supply removed from the address? Bob, there's no meter, it was taken out of the address. Me. We can update our records then. Has the supply been capped? Capped, meter removed and supply pipe sealed off so no gas can be used at all. Usually the contractor would contact the supplier to update this. If not, this is a gas emergency as there is a risk of an explosion. Just to give you an idea, at that time £0.50's worth of gas would blow up a house. About an hour's worth of a gas leak. Bob, no, nothing like that's happened. The meter has just been removed. Me. Can I confirm that for the last 9 months there has been an uncapped gas pipe at that address? Bob, yes. Me. Is there gas coming into the property now? Bob, I don't know. Me. Are you in the property, or have you visited? Bob, there is no meter. Okay. Me. Thank you for that. The emergency services will be there within 1 hour, and if no one is at the address, the police will have to force entry. This has been reported as a gas emergency and your reference is 666. All costs and fees for this will be charged to Bob or whomever is resident at the address. Bob, but, me. Can you confirm you are Bob XXXXX? Bob hangs up. Found out there was a meter still. He was Bob and he tried to complain I took it too seriously. Police, gas emergency crew and fire engines were sent and the road had to be sealed off, and he tried to say it was me being a job's worth. Call was listened to, and because he wouldn't confirm who he was and insisted that there was an uncapped gas pipe at his property for the last 9 months, I'd tried to confirm this more than once and asked about gas. It was found I'd done everything as I should have. Moral of the story, when things can go bang, don't try to be smart. TLDR. Customer thinks he's being smart saying no gas meter at his house, so how can we bill him? Confirms that the meter has been taken out and the gas pipe hasn't been sealed. Reported it as an urgent gas emergency with attendant fire engines, police and road being sealed off. He hangs up. Edit. Removed swear words and made up address. Thank you. Next. This isn't me, but my parents. They absolutely love to tell this story. Before I was born, and if I'm correct, while they were still in their dating phase, they lived in Alaska. Both of them worked very hard, and it was a bit of traveling, considering Alaska has certain parts where cities are few and far between. My mother had been sleeping when my father had just gotten home from work, super early in the morning. Both of them were exhausted. My father had been quite hungry since lunch wasn't really as filling as he needed. He's a 6'6", about 330 plus pound man, so it takes a lot. He made the mistake of waking up my mother, who is the queen of malicious compliance, to go make him something to eat. She grumbled, but got up, walked to the kitchen, and came back and handed him a bowl of Cheerios. My father can be picky sometimes. He looked at her, looked at the Cheerios, and said, "Well, I was kinda hoping for something warm." My mother, wanting to be so nice for her tired, hard-working boyfriend, just took the bowl and sighed. All she muttered was, "Okay, I'll see what I can do," and went off to the kitchen. A few minutes later she comes back with the same bowl and hands it to my father, who notices it is indeed warm. He was very pleased only until he realized she had microwaved the Cheerios and already gone back to sleep. Needless to say, he didn't ask her to cook at 2 a.m. Again, they married on the millennia, and are still, for the most part, happily married, 20 years on the 31st of December / the 1st of January. Thank you. Next. This may be confusing. I tried to leave out certain details that would reveal who I am. I work at a large hospital and there are many places you can clock in because it's a very large building. I work 12-hour night shifts, and every night we have a huddle at 1845 hours, which is the start time for our shift. We used to be allowed to park where the doctors park, and there is an office, the downstairs office, next to that parking lot. We'd wait down there until our supervisor arrived and he would tell us whether we're doing huddle there or upstairs, about a 3-minute walk. In another office each shift uses to hang out in and do 99% of their work in. Nobody stays downstairs because it is a shared office space, and we have a call taker that needs to be able to hear the phone without the distraction of 10 men talking a few feet away from her. Months ago, an email came out saying we cannot park in doctors' parking. Okay, so we all started parking where the nurses are. It's a bit of a longer walk to the downstairs office area. The boss then sent an email implying that every supervisor should be doing their huddles in the upstairs office. This is further driven home by the fact that when our boss visits our huddles, he always goes to the upstairs office and waits for us. A coworker and I found another time clock to use that is near our new parking area. It's very close to our parking area and it's where all the nurses clock in. The walk to it is entirely outside, then a straight shot again to our upstairs office. Normally when walking from downstairs to upstairs we have to walk through the entire emergency department and the lobby. That same coworker and I started parking with the nurses, using the closer clock, and going directly upstairs. On multiple occasions, it would be 1845, 1847, 1850, and we're the only ones there. We even send out texts in our shifts group chat saying we're upstairs at about 1840. Supervisors would text back and say they're doing huddle downstairs. Okay, so we walk downstairs, delaying the previous from leaving because our supervisor is being difficult. Every other shift does it upstairs. They ask us why we don't do it there too, and we have no idea what to tell them. Everything we need is in that upstairs office. Keys for vehicles, our computers, printers, and lockers. Recently, we had to do the walk of shame and our supervisor pointed to the time clock outside the downstairs office and said, "This is your home clock. You have to use this." Well, legally you don't have to use it, but I want you to. There is no such thing as a home clock for our department. I checked the policies. Another supervisor at, always check in here first with someone. We didn't even know you guys were here. Met, doubtful because there's a camera watching our office and I saw it on the large 50 monitor next to my head. All they had to do was look, but okay, I'll play along. Always go downstairs. Always clock in outside the downstairs office. Always check in there with supervisor. Now I sit in my car, relax, and clock in at exactly 1845. I walk in the downstairs office to start huddle, but sometimes nobody is there because they've already gone to the upstairs office. Oh well. Guess I gotta walk up there. My co-worker I mentioned has started doing the same. We cannot be punished because we are clocking in at our home clock on time, trying to check in with a supervisor as instructed, and only being delayed because they decide where to do huddle based on how they feel that day. I don't have hope it'll change. This is the same place that requires us to be on call and ready for a 12-hour shift but only pays us for 2 hours of on-call pay if we're not called in. Thank you. Next. I'm hoping this fits, but I was so damned happy I had to share it somewhere. It's not the most amazing thing ever, but for anyone who has dealt with these bugger, you will appreciate it. I'm on a mobile, so sorry if formatting is a pain. Quick backstory. A number of years ago Australia's disability services swapped over to a nationwide scheme known as the NDIS. It's been a bloody nightmare for some of us. I battled for a few years to get my son registered. To give you an example, if you aren't on the NDIS, you don't get the proper assistance. Bad, there are people with cystic fibrosis who have been knocked back because it's potentially curable. Go figure, right? So, I finally get my son's plan, and as part of it we are allowed to get some equipment from our local disability services shop to help his day-to-day living. I go in the first day, I put the order in and they tell me I can pick the stuff up in a few days once they fill out their paperwork. They will call when it's done. Okay, so a week passes and no call, so I get in contact, and the response I get is, "Oh no, sorry, we haven't filled it out yet, we'll get on it now." 2 weeks pass, so I call back. This time the right person to fill the forms out hasn't been in, so oops, they will track them down and get right on it. Week 3 dawns, and I am in town, so I decided bugger it, rather than calling I'm going in. I walk in and it's packed, and with not just customers but also employees. I wait my turn, tell them my problem. Cue once more the response, "Oh, the paperwork isn't done, we will go find someone to talk to you." A few minutes later someone else comes out and says once more, "Sorry, the paperwork isn't done, but it shouldn't take us too much longer." I figure fuck it, I am not in a major rush, and while all the normal seating is taken, there's a disability toilet seat at the side of the desk. One of those big ones that fit over a normal toilet. So I smile and say that's fine, I can wait. Pull up the seat and park my ass at the side of the counter and just start smiling at him. The person I was talking to obviously expected me to go, so they start stammering and stuttering about going to talk to someone and bolts. You can picture how uncomfortable it would have looked for them. Those seats look really silly on their own in a setting that isn't a bathroom. 5 minutes later they are back. 2 of them this time. Once more they tell me it will take them some time to fill the forms. Again I continue to smile and say all good, I am in no hurry. They both bolt. Another 5 minutes and the actual manager sticks their head round the corner to see if I am still there. And wouldn't you know it, they come out and tell me actually all that was needed was my address, the NDIS number, and the items I needed. I was then allowed to take the stuff and go. So I guess as a basic rundown, 10 minutes of making the buggers as uncomfortable as possible, and not only did I get my stuff, But the people who stuffed us around are now in trouble because it should not take 3 weeks to fill out a form that asks for 3 questions.